If I had a general advice to give to a conductor, any conductor, is prepare as good as you can and just be yourself in the rehearsal. You don't command an orchestra. I mean, you make music with an orchestra. That's a totally different story. If there is no conductor, they can still deliver something without a conductor. And a conductor without musicians, you don't hear a thing. You know, you're the only person on stage who doesn't make any sound. We have the London Sinfonietta players playing for them, and it's like a test drive with a Ferrari or something.
The reason that we do the Academy is really to encourage the next generation to get involved in contemporary music, but at a level at which it's taken seriously. They can benefit from the vast experience the Sinfonietta players have, particularly because we work with so many of the composers that wrote these pieces, and we're able to pass all of that on, and that simply doesn't happen with other groups.
For a young conductor to be able to conduct a group at that level is a fantastic experience, of course, because very often when you start conducting, when you're young, you conduct student ensembles, and student ensembles, they are not very experienced. So you're not very experienced, they are not very experienced. When something is not the way you would like, maybe it's in your gesture, but maybe it's in their reaction to that gesture. It's not necessarily you who is the problem.
Everything showed up how exactly precise you have to be. Any sense of ambiguity or lack of leading or direction is picked up straight away.
It was quite intimidating to work with such experienced players. Sometimes, you know, they don't really need a conductor. Quite a lot of the time they won't need a conductor. And you can make some terrible mistakes in your waving and they'll sound great, they'll sound together. They can expect that detail, and there is that detail that they can perform to. That means you have to be very, very well prepared.
When I look at you conducting, I actually want to play with you. That's a very high compliment, in fact. It's you're very convincing in your presence. There is something convincing about. But your arms are really like this. They are down here, and it's happening in your brain, but it's not happening in your arms. So it's actually a little bit frustrating to see so much in your face. You have a very naturally expressive face. We see what you want, and we believe in what we see. But you have to give it with the arms also. Get it there. Get it there. It's yeah, yes.
I thought overall that kind of the players and Pierre-André were very sort of supportive, but also they were completely happy to sort of criticise you, and I think that's exactly what you need from a masterclass like that, because you don't really want to go away being told that everything was beautiful. You kind of want to be critiqued a bit so that you know what to get better at. Oh yeah, they were very, very easy in pointing out all sorts of helpful tips. Obviously some of them might be paradoxical or kind of work against each other, but you have to notice everyone needs different things, and how you can try and do that at the same time may be impossible, but you have to know what they need so that you can try and work the impossible almost.
What I'm trying to do when I conduct, sometimes I don't succeed, but my idea is that you should actually, of course, even if you're not a pianist or a clarinetist, you should play the instruments. In your head, it has to be clear that you're actually playing, and that gives you a sense of the tempo to start with, which is good, and also it's very good because it gives you a sense of the phrasing also, because you have if you play in your head what you want to hear, then it's clear. If you hear something which is too far from what you want, then you can do something about it.
You always think you know a score, and then you unwrap another level and discover you need to know more, and then you unwrap another level and there's always another level to go. So I think last night we started and thought, this is how I know how it goes, and then sometimes went well and sometimes didn't. So you realise just the next level of how well you must know the score to be able to lead it.
In Straw Dogs by Mark Simpson, the challenge is in fact to have the balance between the different layers of the piece right. These layers are made with, of course, dynamics, but rhythms also. You have in front of you, imagine you have a frame, and that's your beating focusing point. And every beat is going to be there. It's 1 here, 2 here. You go there, but in fact the impulse is in front of you. 1, 2, then there again, 3. It's not there. It's there. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's all in the same area. Everyone knows where to look for your beats. You know, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about in the same frame.
I think some of them were rather surprised with what kind of musical communication we need. For example, they might be beating very clearly, they might get everything absolutely right in detail, but if we're expected to be playing very forcefully and dramatically, and we're not seeing a sense of that drama and force in the conductor, it's actually very hard to play firmly enough. We'll tend to underplay everything. So I think they were sometimes a little bit surprised by how a professional group still needs that kind of dramatic encouragement.
There are various bars, like there's a 2/6 bar and a 4/6 bar, which obviously you don't come across very often, so working out how you're going to subdivide just before going into the bar, and then the way you're going to conduct it is part of the preparation. And then I think the most important thing is just making sure you know the score as well as possible, so that you can look up and communicate with the players rather than sort of being tied and head down to the score.
What we always ask for any conductors is total clarity. I mean, a simple thing like if somebody goes 1, 2, 3, well, what we have to have 1, 2, you have to go really clear to the side, especially as a pianist or a harp or percussion, you tend to be stuck outside. And if somebody's just going straight down, then you won't know where you are. You have to look up, you have to know exactly where you are.
The key challenge is in Birtwistle's piece, Carmen, Arcadiae, Mechanicae, Perpetuum, is basically rhythm tempos. And you have to be, as a conductor, extremely precise in the tempo you give, in the gestures you give, the way you give the upbeat to the new part with a different tempo. And that forces you to know exactly what you're doing.
It's a really exciting piece to conduct because it's really clear. You can tell the composer knows exactly what he wants, whether it's something dancing and really quiet or light. He's been very clear with his parameters, so I've just got to try and look at the music as much as I can, work out what I think he's up to, and also I'm sure I'll pick up many things from the players that they've learned from the piece, having played it many times.
Think the semiquavers. Ti da taka tika taki taki ta taki 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 ta un. Think that in your head. Tika taki 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 ta. You slow down.
As well as the strict rhythm that is written, there's also places where there's quite a few pauses which the conductor can have influence as to when these sort of stab chords come in. Not only do the brass often lead themselves to some of the pauses, so the conductor has to wait, but also the conductor has to give these individual stab chords for which they have to judge how long the pauses should last. It brings out different aspects perhaps to a conventional piece.
They've seen a rehearsal that Pierre-André's done, so they'll be kind of ready for it. I think each day they're getting the idea that it has to just be more economical, less of the sort of great flamboyant beats, and just much more integrated and simple.
Very little of the things that we have discussed in the few days of this course so far would apply just to contemporary music. The way that we might count, the way that we might phrase, the way that we might balance, the way that we might rehearse, and perhaps even discuss how to practice, might apply just as much to Beethoven as to Birtwistle.
When I was a teenager, I went to a jazz concert, and I was fascinated by the drummer. And I went to him afterwards, and I said, I would really like to work at rhythm, to be better in rhythm. What can I do? And in the end, he said, you know, you have to, with rhythm, you have to decide that the beat is there. You have to decide what you want, and you have to decide that the beat is there, and you have to be definite about it. And if you give that, everybody leans on you and is comfortable to play. And if you don't give that, it's always the relation is a bit like this. But if you give something clear, the beat is there. That's where I would like you to play, and it's better for you, better for everyone. In the 70s, I was listening to these wonderful players from the London Sinfonietta. They've worked with the greatest composer that you can think of, Ligeti, Stockhausen, I mean, Bertie. They know all of them, this experience is absolutely priceless, and it's a wonderful opportunity for young players to benefit from that. That's the sense of the Academy, basically. It's passing the knowledge.